Physically speaking, Zoe is amazing. I mean, agility, reflexes, nimbleness. There's few human beings that can fuck with Zoe on that part.
Come, I like you too.
Having said that, before you get too envious of Zoe's prowess, you're missing the most important part of that story. You didn't fall in the ditch. Zoe did. Zoe even knew there was a ditch there because you told her, and she still fell in. So, please write, we all have our talents.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
All right, this is Dane Pollock, a.k.a. Waterborne with TooOldToPlay.com here at the Rock and Shocks Festival in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I'm sitting here with Zoe Bell. You may know her from Death Proof, the Quentin Tarantino film, Whip It, and some other things, as well as her work as a stunt woman, correct? So, Zoe, thank you for taking a few moments to speak with us today.
My pleasure.
And what do you think of the Rock and Shock so far? Has it been a good event for you?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I've never really done these conventions before, but I hear that I'm being spoiled with this one because Gina, the woman who runs it, is a legend, and the people here are amazing. They're being treated really well. It's fantastic.
Excellent. It seems like the fans are really digging the fact that you're here as well. First, I want to talk a little bit about Whip It. I actually had a chance to interview Drew Barrymore when she did the Boston premiere for Whip It a little over a year ago, and that seemed like a really kind of almost a divergence for you in terms of subject matter. Can you talk to me a little bit about your experience with the film and your experiences working with Drew?
Yeah, I mean, as far as divergence is concerned, I mean, it was still kind of action-based.
That's true.
And, you know, I was still an ensemble of amazing female cast, which seems to be like the running thing at this point. And I had an absolute blast doing it. I mean, I got to learn how to roller skate. Yeah. That was rad. I got to work with an amazing cast, with an amazing director. Like, it was Drew's first time directing. She's just a phenomenal individual. Yeah, I just had a really good time doing it, and I just look forward to... I mean, if that's a divergence, I look forward to many more divergences. Divergencies.
Or Divergent Eye, I don't know.
Divergent Eye.
One thing that I noticed when I was speaking with Drew, and it seems to be the same with you, she's extremely accessible and very, very caring for her fans. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you kind of maintain that connection with your fans being in the movies? A lot of people... I actually used the term movie star with her, and she didn't particularly care for that because she doesn't feel like she's a movie star.
Yeah.
How do you view that in terms of interacting with fans at events like this and just in general?
Yeah, Drew's amazing like that, but that's just naturally who she is. I don't know, I guess it's the same thing for me. Definitely for me with something like Death Proof, if I watched that film and I wasn't in it, I would probably talk to me the same way that the fans do. I'd be like, oh my God, talk to me right now, how fucking cool is it? You know, so there's just an understanding of that. The only times that I find that I'm having to be really conscious of how I'm dealing with someone is when someone's clearly not aware of the fact that I'm human as well. And that's the only time that and even then, it's not like I'm upset about it. It's just I just then have to be conscious of how I'm talking to them so that they can still hear me, you know.
Right.
But I mean, I guess the truth is, if you're just appreciative of where you are and what you have going for you and what makes me fortunate, then it's hard. What reason have you got to be a dick to anything?
Right,
you know?
right. As sad as it is, sometimes that's a rare thing. It's really refreshing to see the kind of the persona you bring to it, and like I said, the persona that Drew brings to it. Let's talk a little bit about your experiences in stunt work. Did you do a lot of the stunt work for Death Proof? And can you kind of explain what it's like to be drugged around on the hood of a car?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a stuntwoman since I was 18. I was being a stunt double. I doubled Una in the Kill Bill movies. That's how I met Quentin. That's how the whole thing basically started. And yeah, so of course on Death Proof, it was under the proviso, according to me, but more importantly, Quentin was like, made a stand for it that I was to do all my own stunts.
Nice.
And I was completely on board because I love to do that. And so being on the bottom of the car, probably about 3 weeks I shot that. I loved it. I loved it because that's my shit. That's what I love to do. And something about being the actress and the stunt double just meant I had ownership of the whole character.
Right.
It was so satisfying. And also, often as a stunt person, I had to limit what I'm doing so as you don't see my face. Or there might be an amazing shot when you can't use it on scene. So when I'm playing both sides of it, we can make it as big and as badass and as twisted and thick as possible and use all of it, you know. So it was truly satisfying.
Excellent. And you could definitely tell in the movie that you were enjoying the work. Even in some of the outtakes afterwards, you were all grins and everything. It's really cool to see somebody enjoying the work that much.
Yeah, I was loving life. It was sort of like at that point, Quentin was like, see, you can act, because I swear you look terrified. And then the minute they go cut, I'm like, yay, laughing and giggling, and like, let's go again, you know.
That's awesome. Now, how did you get into stunt work at 18?
Actually 17, did I say 18? No,
Yep.
it was right, I was coming up on my 18th birthday. I did gymnastics for ages, and then when I quit gymnastics, I started up Taekwondo and did some martial arts. And then I just met, through that, I met people that were working on Xena and Hercules and all that sort of shit in New Zealand. And I was like, wait a minute, you guys get paid to do this shit? Like, hook us this up, you know? So I rang about, and my dad's not very thoughtful about much, but he was like, you've been talking about being a woman for a long time now, and it's time you get old, you need to make some phone calls, do this, and he locked me outside with the phone. I was like, fine. Made the phone call, ended up being the Xena stunt double, and then that was sort of the beginning of it, really.
Sounds like a really cool dad to me.
He's a rad dad, yeah.
Your work in Kill Bill, that's one of my favorite films, and I love the work in that film. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like being your first experience working with Quentin and also playing basically the body double for Uma Thurman?
Well, working with Quentin was just phenomenal. We hit it off instantly. I think he called me a motherfucker within about half an hour of meeting me, and I was like, I like you, we can be friends, you know. And he's just super passionate, knows what he wants, and loves making movies, you know. And he would talk to me like I was an actor, even though I was doing the stunt double. He was like, look, you're half of the bride, so I want you to think like the bride. I was like, what? All right, you know. So that was my experience with Quentin. He definitely had me thinking about stuff in a way that I had never had before, which is, I think, how he affects a lot of people. Uma was phenomenal. She was so easy to work with. She worked her ass off on that movie. You know, we were in China for the first 3 months. She just had a baby. She was, you know, she was definitely under the gun for some stress, and she just functioned very
She's the loveliest woman around, and I would eat her for breakfast if she would allow.
David, stop. David A. Hess, everybody.
Thank you, David.
She's one of the best.
I believe it. She's very personable.
We only know each other for a couple of days, but she's one of the good ones.
Aw, thanks, Dave.
High praise from David Hess there. Excellent. So did you just meet him at this event?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is kind of a networking opportunity for the stars as well, huh?
It seems to be. It never really occurred to me that way, but it's sort of it's like networking, and it's more just sort of meeting people who might be in a similar boat that you can just relate to. And these guys are all particularly cool people, so it's just a good opportunity to drink beers with people and talk about stuff that you can all relate to, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely one thing I noticed. Everybody's very accessible here. Sometimes at these types of shows, it can be a little bit more difficult to talk to people.
Yeah.
Kudos to all you guys for being really, I hate to use the term user-friendly, but I'm from a computer group, so.
But I tell you what, what's the point in coming to something like this if you're just going to be mean?
Right.
Or cold? Like, you're here to hang out with fans, like, I don't get it. And I get it, if you don't deal well with public or with fans or whatever, fine, individuals are all different, but just don't come to something like this.
That's wise words indeed. Well, you have some fans lined up, so I don't want to take too much of your time. Real quickly, can you tell us what you have coming down the pike?
I have a movie with Wesley Snipes called Game of Death, just because apparently every movie I do has to have the word death in it. That should be coming out end of this year or early next year. And then there's a couple of movies that two movies I'm looking at, hopefully maybe getting around to Angel of Death 2. I can't do too much detail on that because I don't want to jinx it. And then there's another action comedy, and then I want to coordinate another film next year, and maybe a horror. There's a couple of things in bubbling away, and hopefully some of them start sticking.
Sounds like you're going to be a busy woman. About how many projects do you do a year?
Oh, it so depends, and it depends on the stunts. And that last year's been kind of quiet. I kind of took a bit of a year off and did a bunch of acting classes and went to school and did a bunch of travel and hanging out with friends and family. It's been awesome. But I'm hungry again now. I'm starting to get itchy. You know, I'm like, right, feed me, Seymour, let's go.
Excellent. Well, we definitely look forward to seeing you on the big screen very soon. Thank you once again, Zoe Bell, for spending some time with us.
My absolute pleasure.
And then once again, this is Dane Tulloch, a.k.a. Waterborne, with Too Old to Play at the Rock and Shock Festival in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Jim, did you say something? Nothing. Shit, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes.